And let me begin to share my screen. Perfect. So, hello all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tableau Bootcamp. I'm so excited to see so many data fans today who are eager to learn one of the most powerful visualization tools out there. Today, we are going to deep dive into Tableau's core creatures, like from connecting to data sources all the way to understanding the concepts of dimensions and measures. So, grab your coffee, let's get started. Before we begin, I would like to give a short intro to the bootcamp. So, this is a comprehensive, engaging Tableau bootcamp tailored for both beginners and seasoned enthusiasts. Our mission is to arm you with the expertise and share the required skills to master Tableau and also to make a significant impact in the world of data visualization. Myself, Sowmya Ashok Kumar, I'm a data analyst at Y Technology. I have 8+ years of experience working in business intelligence, and most of my career I have used Tableau as my visualization tool. I'm one of the mentors in Stockholm Tableau user group, and I'm a certified Tableau desktop specialist. Today, I'm going to be your host, and with me, I have Sophie, who will be the co host, and she will answer your questions in the chat. Let's keep it slow and smooth. I'm trying to keep today's session like I divide it into three parts. So at the end of each part, I'll make sure that your questions are answered. In case if you feel like something needs to be answered, I can keep it to the end. So we have the sessions without any interruptions. And if I'm not able to answer your questions, I will collect all your questions and make sure that it is answered in our next upcoming sessions as well. So, with that said, let's move on to the session and just interrupt me in case there is something technically fault from my side or from your side, or if something is disturbing. What we will cover today is the following topics: connecting to the data source page, live and extract connection, the Tableau workspace, discrete and continuous fields, and also the dimensions and measures. So these are like important concepts. And mostly today, I'll try to do some basic hands-on just to get yourself understanding the concepts. But for today, we will not have any complex visualization parts that you have to do it parallelly with me. So just you can focus on what I say and you can understand the concepts. And with the data source part, Superstore sales is something a publicly available data with Tableau, and it is easy for you to connect to it and start working on it. So that is something I will be using today as well. I will show you where to connect to it while I'm explaining the data source page. There are two paths when you have downloaded the Tableau desktop. One is the data source page and other one is the Tableau workspace. So this data source page is like the first stop. When you open Tableau, this is where your journey begins. The data source page is essentially your gateway to the world of data. You can connect to various data sources and be it Excel, SQL, databases, or cloud data. So first, I'll start with the data source page, and then I'll move on to the Tableau workspace. And later, I will explain about the concepts of dimensions and measures. With that said, yes. So When you open a Tableau, let me see if I'm sharing it full. Are you able to see my screen perfectly for the Tableau? A thumbs up. Nice. Perfect. Uh, so when you open Tableau desktop, you will be able to see this first screen, which is the data source page. As I mentioned, here you will have the connect icon where you will be able to connect to a different file like Excel, text file, PDF, or if you want to connect to SQL, or if you want to connect to any of the cloud server, you will be finding all these in the data source page. As I mentioned earlier, today we will be using one of the saved data sources, that is like the publicly available data source in Tableau, the most famous sample superstore. It is quite easy for you to understand the fields inside it, and it is easy to begin your Tableau journey. Before clicking on this data source, I would like to give a short intro to this part. So, since I'm using Tableau for a while, I'm able to see this open. I would call this as a recent tab. So, whatever dashboards I have been using in the recent time, it will appear on this part. So, I can click on the dashboard and start working on it or continue to work on it right away. If you are new to Tableau, you will not be finding any tabs, any dashboards here, which is perfectly fine. And below this tab, you have the quick start. There are two components in the quick start. One is the accelerators and the other one is the sample workbooks. So what Tableau does is that it it has when it comes to accelerators, it is like a template that you can use and connect it to your own data source and use the dashboard which already Tableau has created. But with the sample workbooks, it is like a model that you can be like you can get inspired from it and start using those charts, or you can dig deeper into it and see like how they have developed it and make use of it in your own dashboard. So feel free to explore these options. And on the right corner, you will be able to see some basic links. So these are like tutorials where you will get to know like how to connect to a data, how to develop a dashboard, or how to create a chart, or some basic things about the dashboard. There is one thing that I can highlight with the resources available, which is the Tableau community forums. So this forum is something very helpful for you if you are a beginner, or if you are someone who wants to stay in touch with what is happening in the Tableau world. There are a number of experts right over there, and they are helping you with whatever queries that arise during the dashboard development, and they also share you with the latest updates. So feel free to explore the forum. With that said, now I'm going to connect to the saved data source. What I will do is just click on it. That's it. Once I click on it, it will redirect me to the Tableau workspace. But before that, I would like to explore more on the data source page. As I mentioned earlier, this page is where everything begins. Here, if you see, once I have done the connection, you will be able to see what data source I have connected to. In our case, it is sample superstore, and I have connected to only one data source. So it is showing only one data source. If you want to add more data sources, it's possible in Tableau to add to one more data source or multiple data sources. That is the advantage of Tableau. For the same dashboard, you can have multiple data sources. Below the connection part, we have the sheets. So when I say sheets, this includes all the tables available within the particular connection. So within Sample Superstore, I have three different tables. One is the orders table, and the other one is the people, and the other one is returns. If you move on to the canvas, so this is the canvas I have. In this canvas, you will create the connection between these tables. So when I say connections, you can find this noodle-like structure, which we call as relationships. When it comes to combining the data, it is like a separate topic that you will be learning in the upcoming sessions. But on high level, I can describe like what this relationship is. Relationship is something like a contract we set between two tables. So I'm saying like let's make a contact or let's make a connection relationship set between orders and people. Relationship is not something similar to join, because I'm not defining the join. When it comes to join, we have like four joins, right? Like inner join, outer join, left join, right join. Here I'm not saying that it is going to be a left join or a right join, but I am just setting up the connection. Tableau is smart enough to decide like what type of join we need while pulling in the data. So that part is left to the Tableau. You don't have to think about it. But if you don't trust the Tableau, then there is an option available for you to do the actual join. So what you see here is the canvas, which is the logical layer. And if you double click on the data source, here is the physical layer. So what is special with the physical layer is you can create your own joins. So here you will be able to find the inner join, left join, right join, and full outer join. So of course, but you can completely trust Tableau when it comes to relationships, and you can ignore the join. But if you really want to do the join, just double click on the table and you will be redirected to the physical layer where you can do all the joins. For now, I don't want to do any joins, so I'm keeping it simple. And if you move here, if I click on orders, you will be able to see a data grid where on the right side you see a sample data, where on the left side you see the metadata. So metadata information is, it is just showing you the field names, like what are all the fields available within the orders table. And with this, you will be able to see the sample data, like how the data looks, if something looks weird, or just to get a better understanding of the data source. Here you will be able to find the sample data. As mentioned here, it will be just 10 rows, 100 rows. But if you want to see like 1,000 rows, of course, it's up to you to decide like how many rows you want to see. Let's keep it 100. That doesn't matter in our case because this Superstore is already cleaned and prepped properly. And here you will be able to see the number of fields within the order table. So it is like 20 fields and the total rows is 10,000 rows. Same thing can be applied to the people, where you will be able to see the people table. And for the written tables, what are all the fields we have with written tables. So this is with the data grid. So you are able to see the sample data and the metadata. On the top, you are setting the connection. This is like the data source page. Now we are moving on to the main part, which is the connection. You might be wondering about the difference between a live and an extract. As the name suggests, live connection means Tableau will query your data in real time, always giving you the latest insights. On the other hand, an extract is a snapshot of your data stored in your local system. So if you want to have like an updated data all the time for your dashboard, you can go for live. However, extract can significantly boost your dashboard's performance if you choose. So in my experience, mostly in companies, we go for extract, where we create a local copy of the data set available, and then we create an extract refresh. So the refresh is based on what is happening in the backend. So when the backend data is updated, then I'll set the refresh to a time after that, so that my dashboard is having the latest data. So for example, in this case, if I click on extract, then you get to see this edit option, right? So if I click on the edit option, what you see on the top is the filter. So you can decide like what type of filter you need, or what control you need to show on the data. For example, let's say that I'm going for an order date, and I am saying on the years, I can see 4 years, but I'm not interested in the past year. So I'm okay with just 3 years. In that case, I choose only 2021, 2022, and 2023. Let's click OK. What happens? So whenever the Tableau creates an extract, it will apply this filter and only take data from last past 3 years. And then this option, this is something you can ignore for a while. It's not that important, but it is just setting them to aggregate on what basis. Like, of course, in this case, it is going to be the year. So let's keep it same. And if it is based on your data set, you can decide like if it is going to be a full refresh or an incremental refresh. But let's keep it all rows for now. And if I click OK, then the extract is created. But in our case, since we have the rows, like since we have the saved data source, I'm not going for the extract option. But just to have in mind, always go for an extract option if you want to improve the performance of your dashboard. For now, I'm removing the filters, or I can just move on to live connection. So now my data is again connected to the live data. So everything is back to the position. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this people because I don't want it. And also the returns, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to use only the orders table for my session today to keep it simple. And on the top right corner, you will find the filters. So what exactly does this do is with the data source filter? I mean, when you create a data source, and if you want to have a similar filter that needs to be applied on all your worksheets, then you go for the data source filter. For example, again, whatever I did in the extract filter, I'm trying to replicate here in data source. It doesn't, what is the difference between the extract filter and the data source filter is nothing but the order in which it is executed. So basically, when Tableau starts working for this dashboard, it will fetch the data. On extract level, it will set the filter and give you only some set of data. And then you can create another filter, which is at the data source level. So there you can have another filter and maybe set yourself for something more filterable. So once you have set this data, you can click OK, and you can see over here the rows have been decreased. So what happens is, this is something to keep in mind when you are working with the data source filters. So you will create a dashboard and you will give it to your clients, but make sure that you mention about this data source filter somewhere in your dashboard, like an information page, so the client knows what what data you have. Like for example, if you have neglected a particular year and providing them with the with the dashboard, they should know that the dashboard has only 3 years of data, not 4 years of data. This information is something they cannot view if they are having limited licenses to your dashboard. So always make sure that whatever you are creating in the data source, that needs to be informed to your clients. Now, in our case, so this is with the data source page. Pretty much we have covered everything with the data source page. So in short, I would say like the data source page is where you do some basic cleansing before you create a report. So what happens here is, there is one more thing that I can add. If you look at the fields over here on top, you will be able to see the data type. Tableau is smart to decide like the type of data based on the structure it has. So for example, in our case, if you see the order ID, it is having string. So Tableau is treating it as string. And for the dates, it is treating it as a date. And if you want to switch to different data types, this is where you can do, like either you can do it in the sample data place where you will be able to decide like if you want it to be a date and time, or if you want it to be a date, you can decide on that. Let's go for some numbers. As you could see, the sales is here treated as a number decimal. I would say like let's make it number whole. Then Tableau changes it to a whole number. But of course, I don't want it to be a whole number. I would go for number decimal. So what you can learn from here is that either if you want to change the data type, either you can do it in the data pane, like the sample data, or here in the metadata where you will be able to switch between the data types, like data types. So there are two options to change your data type. And let's see what are all the other options that we can do with data source page. When I said basic level of cleansing, there are few more options that you can do with the fields. For example, here you can rename a field. That's good. So if you want to change the name of the field, you can do it here. And if you want to do the changes to the data, you can also do, like I don't want it to be displayed like this. Let's go and change it. And what are all the other options available? You can create calculated fields, which is something you will be learning in the upcoming sessions. You can also create groups, and also you can split it. For example, let me go for the customer name, and I am trying to split it. Let's see what happens with the customer name. Nice. So it is splitting the first name and the last name. And then here, it's possible for me to rename it as first name. So we have two fields. One is with the first name and the other one is with the last name. Let me go back and change it for now. Nice. But these are like some basic cleansing that you can do in the data source page. Once the data is ready, we will switch to the workspace, actual workspace. But before I explain about the actual workspace, I want to know like if there is some doubts you have with data source. SQL before using it in Tableau. For tests, I could answer yes, of course. Most of the transformations we do it in the backend, like we do it in SQL. We prefer not to do the cleansing in Tableau because in ideal case in companies when the data set is used by multiple dashboards, it is wiser to do the transformations for the data set so it is implemented in all the dashboards rather than doing some changes in dashboards which will make more Tableau or dashboard specific. We don't want to repeat the steps in every dashboard. So preferably we do all kinds of cleansing in the backend. Okay. So are we good to go into the Tableau workspace? Nice. So with the we have our let me move this. Okay. So we have our data connected now. So let's explore the Tableau workspace. So this is where the magic happens. The workspace is divided into shelves and carts, each with its own purpose in crafting your visualization. So at the center, you have the canvas. This is your visual playground, I would say. On the sides, you have the data pane and which will hold your fields. And also there is an analytics pane that will offer you some advanced analytics, which you will be seeing in your future. Here, to begin with the rows and column shelves, these are like your primary tools for building the structure of your visualization. So if you drag a field into your row shelf, it will be displayed vertically. And if you drag a field into your column shelf, it will display them horizontally. This is like a simple concept, but it is like an important concept. So whenever you want to develop a visualization, and if you want the headers to be placed horizontally, then make sure that you place it in the column shelf. And if you want it to be vertically placed, then make sure you place it in the row shelves. So this is a simple concept, just keep in mind. So whatever you want to view in your canvas, you will place it in the rows and column shelves. So that is the purpose of them. And in the left corner, you have the cards. This pages is a card that I rarely use, and I believe most of the people rarely use it, but it's worth learning it what exactly to see. For example, if I pull a field with Tableau, I want to mention that everything is drag and drop. I'm not doing any complex thing. I'm just dragging and dropping it. So when I pull in an order date, what happens is that for within the same worksheet, you will be able to create different pages. So what it happens is the first page is going to show me only the 2021 data, and the next page is going to show me the 2022 data, and next page is going to show me the 2023 data. So when I pull a field into the pages, you can see that it automatically creates a sliding window where I will be able to switch between the pages. So that is the purpose of the pages, but rarely we use pages. So you can ignore that for now. And with the filters, this is quite important. This is going to be your best friend when it comes to controlling which data appears in your visualization. If you want to focus on a specific time period, or maybe if you want to exclude certain categories, just drag the relevant field into this filter card, set your criteria, and Tableau will do the rest. For example, if I want to see only the category furniture, I click over here, set the limit to furniture. If I check for the sales, this is just showing me the furniture sales. If I want to add, let's go edit it. I am adding office supplies and technology as well. Then you could see that my sales has been changed. So whatever control you need to have on the canvas, on your visualization, this filter plays a crucial role. So that's the purpose of this filter card. And last but not least is with the marks card. So basically, this marks is where you define the details of your visualization. So for example, if you want to control the color, size, shape, or more elements, so the purpose of this marks card is to enhance the readability and aesthetic appeal of your visualizations. For example, let's begin with sales. I'm putting it in columns because I want to have it horizontally, and I am bringing in some category. Now I'm able to see that it is showing me three different categories and the sales within those categories. Here our marks is a bar. For a bar, if I want to change the color, go for the color. If I want to change the size of the bar, let me put it this way. I'm fitting it to view. It's easy for you to view it. So I'm saying instead of standard, I am making it fit height. So it will cover the full height. In that case, I am saying the color is changed. The size, I don't want this big. Let's make it small. Nice. And if I want to see what to be displayed in the label, label is what the bar refers to. So here we already have the labels, but if I uncheck it, it will be gone. So it is not displaying the sales value, but I want the sales value. So I am clicking again. But if you want to have a control on where it needs to be displayed, then you can set the alignment. Here in this case, if I am setting it in the middle, let's make it little big. So you will be able to see the labels. So labels is something like, the values that gets displayed. There is one more thing you can notice over here. So whenever I hover over the bar, you are able to see a tooltip that says, category sales. This is this is where this tooltip comes into picture. So if you have to have a control on what to be displayed when you hover over the bar, then you can decide what needs to be included over here. So whatever you want to add, you can add it over here. So that is with the display. So this is for the tooltip. And the last one is with the detail. As the name suggests, so it adds more detail to your view. For example, if I'm adding a shipping mode to detail, can you see the change that happened? It is giving me the sales under each category differentiated by the shipping mode. So under standard class, it is the sales is 300,052, sorry, 352,000. And under a second class, this is the value. And under first class, this is the value. So whatever we added in detail, it gives more value to the visualization. One more thing you can do is if I'm moving the shipping mode to the colors, then you will be able to see based on different shipping mode how the sales has been within each category. So these are something you can do with the marks table. And sorry. Last but not least, here we have the Show Me tab. So the purpose of this Show Me tab is like it gives you more suggestions on the visualization types. So here you have different fields and you are not sure like what type of visualization I should use. In that case, this Show Me tab is helpful. For example, even with the same selection, if I am choosing a category and if I am choosing a sales, sorry, if I am clicking on category with control, I am choosing sales. If I go for the Show Me tab, it will suggest me, it will highlight all the charts that are that we can able to create with these two columns. So for example, I have already created a bar chart. So let me go back to, tree maps. Nice. So what happens here? It is creating a tree map with the categories and the sum of sales we have. As you know, like I'm not able to see what is the sales. If you want the sales to be displayed over here, every time what you can do is you pull and put it in the label. You are able to see the sales now. So that is the purpose of the Show Me tab. So it will suggest you like what type of visualizations that you can create with the fields you have. So which is quite helpful in the very beginning when you are struggling to, decide on the different types of charts available within Tableau. So, and one more thing that I need to add with the workspace is in the very bottom of the workspace, you can see three different icons. The first one is the new worksheet. When I say worksheet, it is only one chart can be created within a worksheet. As what I'm doing here, whatever I'm creating is one chart. So that is with the worksheet. And with the dashboard, you can create multiple worksheets within it. So you can have the interactions scheduled between them. So that is the purpose of the dashboard. And last but not least is the story where you can, create captions and give a story to the insights you have created. Here you will be able to pull in dashboard as well as the worksheets. So that is the purpose of these three icons. So whenever if you want to create a dashboard, you begin with the worksheets, you create all the sheets required, and then you go back to the dashboard and drag all the worksheets into it and create the interactions. So that is like the high level overview on the Tableau workspace. There are other options that are available on the top. I would say, like, feel free to explore it on your own, because it will be overwhelming if I go through one by one on every options available. But the one thing that you have to keep in mind is with the cards and the shelves, and also with the data pane. So are we having any doubts, or I can continue with the next topic, which is the dimensions? Are we good? Any thumbs up smiley, or nice? Perfect. Sorry, my system is slow, I guess, so it takes time to go to the next tab. Nice. Before jumping on to the dimensions and measures, I would like to show you one thing that you have noticed already, but I have to highlight it. So if you check over here, there is a thin gray line. So whatever is on above the line, it is considered dimensions. And whatever we have below the line, it is considered the measures. So in simpler terms, I will explain what is a dimension and a measure. So dimension is qualitative aspects of your data, like whatever it is, those are categorical, and it represents different segments or categories in your data. For example, names, dates, geographical data, and whatever informations we have comes under dimensions. When it comes to measures, it is like the quantitative components of your data. Those are numerical values that you can measure and aggregate. For example, you will be able to sum the data, and you will be able to average it, count it. So whatever numerical values you have, those are considered measures. With that said, if you notice a pattern in this, whenever I click on dimensions, you can see the blue. And when I click on measures, you see the green. So shall I say that dimensions are the blue fields and measures are the green fields? Definitely no. And whatever I have it in the chat, since my co-host is leaving, I will look into the chat after I complete this part. So please wait for any questions if you have it in chat, because I'm getting distracted with the chats. So when I say, like, the dimensions are blue fields and the measures are green fields, it's definitely not. There is a different concept we have with Tableau, which is blue, which is like discrete fields and continuous fields. I'll explain this. Discrete fields are like the blue fields, and continuous are the green fields. So whenever you have the discrete fields, they are considered distinct values. Like, it has distinct values, and in general, they group your data into categories. When it comes to continuous field, they are like infinite number of values within a range. And whenever you pull in a continuous field, the Tableau creates an axis, and when you pull in a discrete field, Tableau creates headers. This might look little complicated, but I'll explain with the Tableau so it will be easy for you. But before going into the Tableau, I would like to mention one more point. So whatever discrete fields or continuous fields we have, it is possible for you to switch between them. And whatever dimensions and measures you have, it is possible for you to switch between them. That is the flexibility we have with Tableau. So in that case, what happens is, just remember this uh, column, this picture, I will definitely share this presentation as well at the end of this session, and we have the recordings as well. So you can just look into the recordings and try to understand this concept, because this is like the most complex concept. But if you are very clear with it, then you are good to create like your own visualizations without any hesitations. So try to repeat, I'll try to repeat what I say. So with these combinations, like the dimensions, measures, discrete, and continuous, we can create four different options, which is discrete dimensions, continuous dimensions, discrete measures, continuous measures. One thing to have in mind is whenever you pull a dimension, it will always disaggregate your data and split the view. But when you pull in a measure, it will be always filling the view and gets aggregated. Similarly, when you pull in a discrete field, it will give you headers, and when you pull in a continuous field, it will give you an axis. Don't worry, I'm going to explain it in Tableau so you will get to understand these concepts. So, for example, let me begin with the category. Here, this category is a dimension and it is a discrete field. So, what happens if I pull the category to rows? It is creating headers. So when I say headers, if you can see in the bottom, it is like 3 marks. So whatever I have pulled in, it is like 3 distinct values. So under category, we have 3 distinct values. So this is the purpose of discrete fields. But when I pull in a continuous field, you can see it is the Tableau is creating an axis. Did you see the difference? When I pulled in a discrete field, Tableau was creating headers. When I pulled in a continuous field, Tableau is creating an axis. And it is, as I mentioned, it is possible for me to switch a dimension into a measure and vice versa. Here, this is a continuous measure. So what happens is I'm completely going to flip it into a discrete dimension. For example, let's go one by one. As I mentioned earlier, this is a measure. So what happens if I change this to a dimension? As you can see, what was the difference that happened? When I made it a measure, the sales was aggregated. I was able to see the total value. But when I make it a dimension, the values are getting disaggregated. So I am able to see, individual values of the sales that I have in my data. So right now, this is a dimension. But still my field is a continuous field. So what I mentioned about continuous field. So whenever we have continuous field, the Tableau shows us a axis. But if I don't want an axis, I want an header, then in that case I make it to discrete. Immediately the Tableau creates me the headers. So can you feel the difference of the dimensions, measures, and discrete and continuous? There is only one thing that I have to highlight with these concepts. Discrete gives you the headers. So whenever you want to have a header of a field, make it discrete. Continuous gives you an axis. So whenever you want to create an axis, whatever field you are pulling in, you have to make sure that that field is a continuous field. If not, you have to make it a continuous. With dimensions and measures, of course, the concepts is a little clear. Like whenever there is a categorical data, you can treat it as a dimension. And when there is numerical data, you can treat it as a measure. Just to keep in mind, it is possible for you to switch between them. With that said, actually, we have completed today's session. There is a resource information that I need to share with you all. That's why I have added this field. I'll share the presentation after this session, so you will be able to go through these resources. These are some amazing resources that you can use to learn about Tableau. And our next session, hosted by Sana, is going to happen on 25th March. Please make sure to register and keep learning Tableau. With that said, I'll look into the chat. That's nice. And if there is any questions, feel free to ask. If not, I'm already running out of time. I hope this session was good. And if there is any questions, please feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn as well, and I'll make sure to answer them if I have the proper time. Thank you all. Are there anything that we need to discuss? I'm stopped.